Histories and voices that are intertwined, connected by one common thread, building internet and communication community networks. Hi, my name is Renata Porto from São Paulo, Brazil, where our podcast studio is located. I'll be following you throughout this entire season on community-led initiatives divided in 12 episodes. In the second episode, we will dive into a story from Kenya, the TunapandaNet. This project offers support for many communities in the deployment of community networks, as well as digital literacy and safety in a community that is widely known as Africa's largest slum, Kibera.
We had a training on digital literacy basics on how to use Zoom to mobilize, how to protect self when engaging in the online space.
The point of that is really to help people organize. It's about helping people create the knowledge or gain the knowledge that they need to operate and maintain their own networks.
In order to tell you this story, our team has talked to Risper Akinyi Arose. She's a young resident from Kibera who works in many projects of digital inclusion and communication. We also talked to Peter Bloom from Rhizomatica. He will help us understand the process that mobilize internet and intranet community networks across the globe. Everything in order to guarantee autonomy and connectivity in regions where the population is offline because telecom corporations do not see profitability in such communities, ignoring local demands, commonly following the trend of what many governments also do. So join me! Routing for Communities, an audio journey tracing community connectivity around the world.
Kibera is a division of the Nairobi area, Kenya, and the largest urban slum in Africa. 2012 article in The Economist suggested that Kibera may be the most entrepreneurial space in Kenya. However, the vibrancy of the Kibera residents participating in the socio-economic and political space in the country is often crippled by obstacles such as the digital divide.
The audio you've just listened to comes from the audio documentary Women from Kibera Speak Up, produced by TunapandaNet. The presented description helps us get an idea of what the local reality looks like in this community's network project we are discussing today.
My name is Risper Akinyi Arose. I am 26. I'm 26 years old. I was born and raised in Kibera. I'm the third born in a family of 5 siblings. We are five siblings.
Risper studied gender and development. She started to work with community networks in 2020 after graduating from college. But before we tell you more about Risper's work at TunapandaNet, I'm going to talk about Kibera. Located in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, Kibera is formed by people coming from different regions of the country in search of better life opportunities. Around 60% of Nairobi's over 4 million population lives in informal settlements. Kibera alone is home to 250,000 of them.
So Kibera, it's a big portion of Nairobi where most people from the countryside, when they first get to Nairobi, because Nairobi is usually where people would want to come and look for jobs. So when they get to Nairobi, and especially if you don't have enough money to afford good housing, Kibera would be like one of the places to consider, because the housing is a bit cheap. So you'll get a house. The houses they are parked in one area. So the first thing you would see when you get to Kibera is a lot of brown roofing. I think we can get a photo, but just like a lot of houses together.
Kibera is also one of the territories that still sees offline areas. Internet access is not the only missing piece for those living in this area. Only 20% of the community officially has access to electricity. But somewhat informal arrangements also guarantee access to light for many of its dwellers. Access to water and sewage systems is another serious issue that the local population has to deal with. Living with her parents in the community, Risper talks to our team via video call. However, we are not able to see her since her camera was turned off during the whole interview, a strategy to curb data consumption during our conversation.
Hello?
Hi. Hello. How are you?
I'm well. Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
In the research done for this episode, we were able to find some of Risper's photos on social media. In one of them, one can see a young black woman with a big smile on her face and dreadlocked shoulder-length hair adorned by colorful beads. This young woman's voice matches exactly what we see on her social media presence. Nowadays, Risper is the coordinator of gender and community engagement at the TunapandaNet project, working with community-led networks. Talking about her work, she tells us that it covers beyond issues of digital accessibility.
Now my work was to engage the community to see how they utilize the internet to create capacity building for the community to understand the benefits of the internet, to make sure that our work was very gender sensitive and that we were targeting both men and women, and also to curate interventions where the communities would now not only just consume the content that was already online, but also start thinking of ways that they can produce content that matters to them.
TunapandaNet project, an urban internet community-led network aimed at improving education and health via formation and learning tools in the communities. In 2016, when the project was launched, the idea was to complement the education system. By doing so, it would make sure, aside from traditional means and educational entities, that community schools would be able to come up with ways of engaging students via online world. Over time, many other projects were created and established.
It is East Africa's first confirmed case of the new coronavirus, COVID-19.
Fellow Kenyans, I want to inform you that the Ministry of Health has confirmed the first coronavirus case in Kenya.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, from 2020 onwards, the challenge has been focused on guaranteeing access to education amidst lockdowns in Kenya. For that, projects that included video production and teachers training programs were developed so that it could use different video call softwares and apps. The co-creation of projects with the community alongside TunapandaNet has also contributed to organizational and activist dynamics in various areas, such as healthcare, education, and gender violence. Before then, these fights for rights were done exclusively in face-to-face initiatives. With the pandemic's social distancing policies, they started to be conducted online by using platforms such as Zoom.
From this gathering, we had a training on digital literacy basics, on how to use Zoom to mobilize, how to protect self when engaging in the online space, how to make sure that they amplify their voices using the different platforms. We also talked about using podcasting to make sure that they can still create awareness around the different areas that they are working on.
Another important front at TunapandaNet is working on promoting and supporting other emerging and existent community-led networks in Kenya through training actions. That's what they did in the first National School of Community Networks in Kenya. The national schools were a collective capacity-building effort for the creation, development, and consolidation of community networks. It was a way to cultivate bottom-up, sustainable approach to communication and meaningful connectivity. Beyond Kenya, they also took place in Brazil, Indonesia, Nigeria, and South Africa between 2021 and 2023. In addition to being a learning powerhouse, each school seeks to be a multiplier of community-led initiatives, bringing together people from different communities around the country and fostering collaboration with other organizations. In Kenya, TunapandaNet was the one leading and facilitating the school's process while supporting those participating. They were building the community networks on the ground.
Through the support from APC, we curated a mentorship and training program that looked into the different pillars of what it takes to start, what it takes to operate, what it takes to sustain a community network. For the past 2 years, we have worked with 11 organizations that now are community networks on just making sure that they understand what a network and infrastructure look like, what sustainability will look like for their community network, and other add-ons that they can do with the network and infrastructure that they set up. That it's beyond just the infrastructure, but also creating value to the community. So how does the connectivity act as an enabler of what the community is already doing?
While I'm telling you Risper's and TunapandaNet's stories, it's clear that even during hard times and great difficulties, these communities have been creating spaces of solidarity and hope, as well as initiatives that concretely change the local population's lives. Community-led networks initiatives that enable the construction of local content, as those presented by Risper, can be the seed to inspire other communities out there. But before implementing projects like that, there is a whole articulation alongside processes, organizations, and people involved in the development of community networks. One of these people is Peter Bloom, who also talked to us in a video call straight from Mexico.
Hello.
Hello, Peter. Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Can you hear me well?
I can, yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So my name is Peter Bloom. I am originally from Philadelphia in the United States, and I've lived outside of the U.S. since about 2009. I lived in Nigeria for a couple of years, and then I've been in Mexico since about 2010 in a place called Oaxaca, which is where I'm joining you from today, in southeastern Mexico.
Peter started off as a community organizer, working in alternative and independent communications media. Nowadays, he is Rhizomatica's coordinator, an organization he founded in 2009. Rhizomatica uses information and communication technologies to facilitate development and community organization.
Rhizomatica started kind of as a fusion between a community media project and a connectivity project. I was working in the Niger Delta in Nigeria with some communities facing some really harsh human rights and environmental rights issues, and was doing participatory video work with them, and then tried to figure out how we could get the videos off of their phones and to the public without going through the cell phone network. And that's kind of how Rhizomatica started, trying to figure that out with no prior knowledge of networking or technology really of any sort. And ever since, I've been working on that. I came to Mexico, like I said, collaborated with some community radio projects, and then from that, in around 2012, we started a community cell phone network with a bunch of communities up in the mountains, indigenous communities here in Oaxaca.
Throughout all the actions in multiple communities across the globe, Peter believes it's necessary to understand that the right to communication is a fundamental right in the world we live in.
Where I think the rights comes in is basically before kind of enabling other rights, I think there is a fundamental right to communication and to information. Increasingly, we live in a digitized world. And so having some control and some understanding and some ability to participate in the infrastructures that provide our access to information, I think is crucial.
Talking to Peter, we thought about some links between his way of seeing the matter of communications and what TunapandaNet has been doing, especially when it comes to the way technology can support ensuring rights and access to communication. As mentioned by Risper on the Tunapanda project, the initiatives are meant for the communities to become both consumers and active producers of meaningful online content, made by them to them. In a similar sense, a community network can be a solution to the lack of connectivity that is co-created and managed by local people, and not something totally pushed from the outside in. Taking part in the digital world may seem as a completely advantageous at first, but that's not exactly how it goes. At TunapandaNet, one of the initiatives involves creating a podcast on online gender violence so that women from the community can talk about this problem. The podcast Tunabonga was posted in digital streaming platforms and is also broadcast at Kibera's local community radio station. The name Tunabonga means "we are conversing" in Swahili.
Welcome to today's podcast. In this podcast, we'll be discussing the rise of online gender-based violence, and we'll be offering women in Kibera a chance to discuss the importance of creating safer spaces online, as well as amplifying their voices.
The risk of online gender violence are only one example of what internet connectivity may bring as a negative outcome. Yet, Peter believes that it's through work in the communities that one is able to strengthen autonomy while dealing with these other issues at the same time.
The point of that is really to help people organize. It's about helping people create the knowledge or gain the knowledge that they need to operate and maintain their own networks. So really the kind of end goal for us is autonomy of individuals or of communities directly. It can also create issues, right? So I wrote an article recently just trying to unpack a little bit some of the negative aspects of connectivity. I think our job, working on community networks, is to help facilitate information, knowledge, technology transfer and all of that, but inside of a process whereby the communities are defining what they want to do with the connectivity, how they want to use it, and kind of what the benefit that they're looking for, and also what their concerns are about the possible negative impacts of the internet on young people, on women, on anyone in the community, really, on cultural practices and so on.
Well, this is the end of our episode. I hope the stories that were told by voices from Kenya and Mexico were a source of learning as well as hope, and that the initiatives shared in this podcast lead us to act together and collectively. If you have liked this episode, please recommend this podcast to those you know will appreciate it as well. You can follow the season on the main podcast platforms or on APC's website, routingforcommunities.apc.org. On our podcast's website, we also bring in references and links for you to know more about the themes and experiences that were discussed in this episode. Go there and check it out. In the third episode, I'll tell you about an experience straight from Mexico, the Wikcatat, the first indigenous virtual operator providing internet and mobile phone services in the country. You have listened to the second episode of Routing for Communities, an audio journey tracing community connectivity around the world. This is the podcast of the Local Networks Initiative, a collective effort led by the Association for Progressive Communications, APC, and Rhizomatica. Production, Rádio Tertúlia. In this episode, you have listened to audio content from SABC News, as well as to the song Kibera ni Kwetu by Footwalks Daniel. Thanks and see you next time.